What is going on, snipers? Naeem Al-Obeidi here. I hope you're all enjoying your day today. Let's go ahead and just dive right into our daily cryptocurrency content and analytics for today. Bitcoin seeing a flash crash this morning from 7,900 all the way down to the 7,500 levels. You can see we are finding some support right along this long-term ascending support line, and we're going to be doing a deep analysis of Bitcoin and talking about why we're seeing this type of price manipulation and what we are to expect over the next coming weeks. By the way, a huge announcement: we went ahead and launched our hedge fund. If you are an accredited investor, we are vetting out all of our accredited investors, but we are accepting applications right now. Just send an email to sniperstube@icloud.com if you are an accredited investor and you are interested in investing into a crypto hedge fund where the majority of the assets are going to be invested into crypto, and then we'll also have other hedges alongside with that, but we'll talk more about that later down the road. Let's look at Bitcoin's analysis. You can see we are following this long-term ascending support level, and we corrected right down to that Fibonacci retracement, the 0.23. We bounced right on top of that Fibonacci retracement. Obviously, that's a good sign. And what I am seeing right now with Bitcoin is prices are obviously at oversold levels and approaching even more oversold levels. And in my opinion, this is not a time to panic, but more so a time to start accumulating Bitcoin in expectation of another swing, right? So we've seen constant swings from the highs to the lows. And if you pull up this weekly chart, and this is a chart that I think is completely undervalued and underutilized right now, but the weekly chart is a chart that we can start using, right? Knowing that this market has been able to mature over the past couple of years, I think the weekly chart is something that's going to be extremely important for analysts to start looking at to determine future price levels. So looking at this weekly chart, you can see the 50-week moving average is holding on right now to Bitcoin's support level. And what I like about this chart is it's showing that exact descending support line that we were talking about on the daily, and knowing that Bitcoin has seen these swing highs and swing lows in the past, where we went down to 6,000, swung all the way back up to around 10,000. Now we're seeing this swing low. It's only a matter of time for us to see another swing high. And if you did lose any sort of capital with this correction, the best way to regain your capital in this case is to buy low so that you can bring your average cost of purchase down, so that when we do see this swing up, you can go ahead and hit those break evens or profits faster than you would have if you did not dollar cost average more liquidity into the market at these lower levels. So for example, if you were to buy positions at 10,000 and now you were to buy positions at around 75, well, if you were to buy the same amount of positions you bought at 10,000, then your average price of purchase would have been around this middle point. So then it would only take Bitcoin to go back to 8,500 for you to break even. So the reason I say that is I think a lot of people learn lessons during these times in the market, and in my opinion, these are the times that I look forward to, because I think these are the best opportunities to get into the market. Remember, we're looking for these discounted rates. Fundamentally, the market hasn't changed. In my opinion, what we're seeing right now is a manipulation with the majority of the whales and the market makers, quote unquote, in this market that are manipulating this price, allowing it to go down because they are able to short and leverage with like BitMEX, for example. And that's pretty much what we're seeing, in my opinion. Let's take user requests. And somebody says, people losing hope on Twitter, it's going to go back up real quick, Three-Eyed Rebel. Well, here's the thing. And, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if any of you agree with me here. But at the end of the day, the lowest low that we know of right now is around that 6,000 level, to be, quite extreme here. I would say 6,000 is the lowest we could most likely go at this point. And even if we were to correct to 6,000, all that would do would confirm a triple bottom and allow us to have even more strength on that support level. And I just don't expect us to go any lower than 6,000 ever again, knowing that we've already double bottomed at 6,000. And then if you look at this RSI, for us to go below 6,000 would mean this RSI would have to come off of my screen. And I just don't expect that to happen. I think that, yes, we are seeing this swing low, and it's just a normal aspect of this market, especially with the market makers that are trying to manipulate and short this market. So do you guys agree with me or not? I mean, think about it. If it goes down to 6,000, yip-de-doo. If you're dollar cost averaging now until 6,000, it's most likely going to swing past 9,000, and we'll be able to make up our profits. Yes or no? Tom S says yes. Kevin says a correction to 6,000 would create a lower low from the 6,500 level. Also, the RSI was off the screen during BTC's run up. So why not the same on the way down? Kevin Stevenson said, well, I just don't expect Bitcoin with the amount of liquidity that has come into the market in December to go any lower than 6,000, knowing that Bitcoin has found very strong support levels along these areas. For it to break down past 6,000 would be more of an extreme scenario that I just don't expect, or, especially with institutional money coming into this market, I don't see that happening. This is one of the first markets, you have to understand, where Main Street has come before Wall Street. There aren't institutions in this market. And if there is, name them, right? Like, I'm serious. If you're on the chat and you believe institutional money is in this market, then name which institutions have money in this market. And the majority of institutions don't have any investments in this market yet. And they are obviously looking to invest in this market, as Bitcoin is a asset that is limited in quantity, just like gold, and has a storage of value. So knowing that the majority of investors right now in this market, pre-$1 trillion market cap, is retail investors, I can only expect and assume institutional money to take this market cap above 1 trillion over the next several months. And all it's going to take, in my opinion, is regulation. We're all waiting for regulation. As soon as regulation comes into this market, it will give more confidence to these institutions to go ahead and invest large capital into this market. And I'm talking from a standpoint of an individual that has been around the largest investors. Matter of fact, I was at an event with an NBA All-Star championship player, Lamar Odom, 2 days ago, and he was talking to me about how bullish he is on this cryptocurrency market and this revolution. And if you guys are following me on Instagram, I posted that Snapchat with Lamar Odom talking about crypto. It was a brief little snippet, but we had a pretty deep conversation about it. And I can tell you right now, there are a lot of individuals right now that are very bullish of this market that weren't so bullish in December when we saw the initial rally up, because they just weren't aware of the market. It was pretty cool because December was almost the beacon of hope for the investors that are now looking at Bitcoin as a possible investment. And I think seeing these lower lows, we're just going to see more institutional money come into this market. You can see the last time we went down to 6,000, we saw the largest buy volume in Bitcoin's history occur. And that's because an institution or a market maker saw that opportunity and took advantage of it. And there's no reason they're not going to continue to see this opportunity and take advantage of it, especially knowing on this weekly chart that we're just bouncing off of this 50-week moving average. And large buyers will look at these strong indicators like this 50-week moving average and utilize that in their opinion of when to go ahead and enter back into this market. So in the past, anytime we've seen volume starting to consolidate the way we're seeing it now, where we're seeing a decrease in volume, but it's still consolidating around normal levels, we've in the past have seen an increase following that consolidation. Like right here where we had a consolidation, we obviously saw that increase following that consolidation in volume. So I'm very optimistic about this market. What about you guys? Are you guys optimistic? Yes or no? Listen, some people are saying this is no big deal. I agree. Sam Brown says, honestly, don't see a crazy run happening till at least late next year. Kind Media says, great advice to start looking at weekly. I agree 100%. Bitcoin says, Bitcoin is accumulated by stronger and stronger hands since our whales have no vision. Emmett says yes. Tom S says ups and downs. Russ says waiting to buy more. Yeah, we've seen this. Guys, if you've been in this market, you guys have seen this over and over again. This is nothing new. At the end of the day, we were expecting lower lows, knowing that we were below that EMA, and then also seeing that we went from the swing low to the swing high. I mean, this is just something that we're supposed to be, cognizant of in this market, especially if you are an investor, because this is the type of market we're in. It's an extremely volatile market, and we're going to be seeing these swing highs and swing lows, and we have to be able to cope with it properly. So Tanner says, cheap per buy-in points, I'm adding more positions. Think about when Bitcoin was approaching 6,000. I mean, everybody was extremely worried. Everyone was spreading the same type of FUD we're spreading now, if not worse. And it ended up correcting all the way back up to 10,000. So what if you were able to secure that position at 6,000 and almost double your money within a couple weeks? I'm seeing that exact same scenario play out over the next couple of weeks with this swing low once again occurring, right? You can see we've already seen all of these red candlesticks on the weekly. There's never been a time that we've seen more red candlesticks following this amount of red candlesticks, right? This might not be a in-depth doji candlestick analysis, but what I will tell you is every time we've seen major lows occur, we've always seen major highs occur shortly afterwards. So in my opinion, I'm telling you right now, the time for us to start dollar cost averaging our position back into Bitcoin is going to be when this RSI starts to head towards that 30. I believe it will most likely head further low. You know, it would probably find support along 30, or if not, touch right beneath it. But in my opinion, it is the time to start dollar cost averaging your position, and knowing we're below 40, everything is looking bearish at this point, but this bearish scenario can only allow us to see more upside after it's completed, right? So it's good that we're not at these higher highs where we're saying we're overbought. Now we're oversold, and it's the perfect opportunity for us that wanted to get a position into these intrinsically valuable projects like EOS, for example, to get that position in now. So be excited about it. Somebody says 400 likes and you pour the LaCroix over your head with your shirt off. Sure, we'll do that. Why don't we pop our LaCroix? If we hit 500 likes or 400 likes, that I say, I'll pour it over my head with my shirt off, and it's icy cold, as you can tell. This is our guilt-free soda, by the way, if you're new here on Snipers too. Somebody says, what is your hedge fund? So yes, I am starting my, we already started our hedge fund. I actually got into a partnership with one of the first registered hedge funds in the state of Texas, but we're accepting investors all throughout the United States as long as you're accredited. And there's obviously going to be a KYC process involved and stuff, but just email sniperstube@icloud.com if you are an accredited investor. If you are an accredited investor and you don't know you are, the criteria means you either have to have $200,000 worth of income for the past 2 years and expect to make $200,000 this year, or you have to have over a $1 million net worth minus your current property that you live in. So it's not, you know, minus that in your net worth. So that is what is considered a accredited investor. Somebody says, so when to buy BTC, what price would you suggest? I would suggest any price levels from now all the way up to around that 30 in RSI, because we're definitely going to see a swing high sometime soon. It's just a matter of when we find that bottom. But in my opinion, we've pretty much found, if not close to the bottom, because looking at this weekly chart, you can see we've already bounced off of that 50-week moving average. And then on the daily, you can see we're heading towards that known support level. And if we were to draw a Fibonacci retracement here as well, the Fibonacci retracement can help you determine potential support and resistance levels. You can see if we were to draw that out from this top to this bottom, we hit right at that Fibonacci retracement. So for us to see any further lows, I think would just be us beating Bitcoin down. But at the end of the day, I think that coming from these lower Fibonacci levels like the 0.23, knowing the RSI has been completely oversold, it's only going to be a matter of time for Bitcoin to see its next swing high, which will most likely go above $8,000, $9,000 levels. If not, we may see a triple top occur at 10,000 and find strong resistance along that line once again, which would be an interesting feat for Bitcoin. But remember, the opportunity here lies within taking advantage of these swing highs and swing lows. You can see we couldn't maintain that 50-day moving average. We dropped below it just like we did previously. But anytime we saw that swing high, we ended up going above that 50-day moving average before seeing any sort of, descent from that level. Nicholas says BTC is going in a sideways channel until more hype or institutions enter. I don't think a bull run will happen this year, but next. I don't think it would take until next year, Nicholas, because regulations are starting to mature. But I wouldn't be surprised for Bitcoin to see another swing high to the 10,000 levels and for it to then rest upon that 50-day moving average, whether that's going to be around 9,000 or 8,500. I wouldn't be surprised for us to see a consolidation along those lines, because that's typically what happens anytime you see these major exuberant rallies like we saw in December. For example, I'll pull up the Nasdaq, a completely different market, but a very similar scenario to what we're seeing here, right? The Nasdaq had a huge bubble in 2000 when all the .com companies started coming to fruition. And then you could see if we pull up that chart on the weekly, after this huge exuberant run up, what ended up happening was we started to see a consolidation along the moving average before seeing any further highs. So I would expect the same thing to occur here, where you see this exuberance and then following the exuberance is a consolidation. And I wouldn't be surprised for that to occur with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's a faster market. There's more people in this market. Not that there's more people, there's more retail investors in this market. Like if I were to ask all 500 viewers right now, who here has any sort of ownership in stocks, the majority of you would say you don't. But if I were to ask you who has ownership in crypto, the majority of you do, because this market's completely different than the traditional markets. It's faster, it's more volatile, it has less liquidity right now, which means more manipulation and things of that nature, which is all factors that you have to take in part when trading this market. Nicholas says, great example with Nasdaq. Thank you. Alex says, 200 likes and you wear your pants on your head next stream. What if I don't have pants? I'm just kidding. I'm wearing shorts. Silver Fox says, legend as always. Love your channel. Quick UTK, please. Jose says, I own stocks, crypto, real estate, and commodities. That's probably the best thing you could have right now. To be diversified is to be safe, right? Ray Dalio says in his book, being diversified is being safe. The more diversification, the more allocations that are spread across different asset classes, the more risk management's in place. And risk management is the key to trading, because it's not about making every trade, but it's about managing your risk properly in order to make more upside than downside with your trades. Shaw A says, do you recommend buying BTC now or wait? I would say dollar cost averaging your position into Bitcoin from this point until RSI starts to go below 30 would be the best option for Bitcoin right now. Knowing that we've seen this pattern form in the past, this is almost like the third time this has happened. Anytime we've seen these long descents, especially on the weekly chart with this swing low, we've always seen a swing high. So swing low, swing high, swing low. We're most likely going to see another swing high, possibly up to like the 0.61 in Fibonacci, which would take us to around the 10,000 level. So that's what I would say, especially because we're back at that 50-week moving average, and that's obviously been the most consistent support level thus far during these corrective phases of the market, especially after the December rally. Crew says, how much longer do you see us tanking? For just a few more weeks? No, absolutely not. Here's my question to all of you viewing this, because we're getting this same questions over and over again. Every time we've seen red in the market, we've seen a bloodbath on CoinMarketCap. What has always happened after that, at least in the next 3 or 4 days? What has always happened? Michael says, 300 likes for stream in Hawaii, shirt and flower necklace. Sure, we'll do that. For 300 likes, we'll wear Hawaiian gear on our live stream. What are we at right now? Let's see. Do we have to pour this LaCroix over my head? We're at 112. All right. If we hit 400, I'll pour this ice cold beverage over myself. Somebody says, boy, oh boy, think of the upside. Absolutely. Russ McLand said green. Exactly. Aldo says rebound. Exactly. Crew21 says pump. Exactly. That's what's going to happen. You know, and I'm involved with a lot of people buying and selling large amounts of Bitcoin. And I'll tell you this, every time I've had an individual come to me to buy and sell Bitcoin, especially the buyers, I've always had a matchup for every transaction. So like, for example, if a seller comes to me and says, hey, I want to liquidate 100,000 Bitcoin, I'll help them find a buyer. And I've never had issues doing that because there are buyers in the market, right? In my opinion, this is a buyer's market. There are a ton of buyers in this market right now. And in regards to Bitcoin at these higher price levels, as soon as institutions come in and that liquidity flows into the market, we're going to see parabolic run-ups, and it's most likely going to surpass our previous all-time highs. Now, that may be a couple months down the road, but what I will tell you is there's definitely not the amounts of institutional money that's in the market right now that's going to be in the market. So Andrew says, how does the monthly chart look to you? We haven't really looked at the monthly charts here, but if we pull up the monthly charts, there's not as many indicators. It's a little bit harder to use the monthly charts, especially with so little information. So I would say the weekly chart right now is probably the most reliable if you were to go into these higher price levels. Zane says, it's a great place to be. Oscar says, got to make sure my girlfriend never comes across your channel or I'll be left single. What are you talking about? Wanderlust says, first it was pour it on your head. Last time now it's pour it on your head without a shirt. Then next time what? Pour it on without your pants? I think someone just wants to see you without clothes. Haha. Yeah, I mean, we get some crazy requests. Somebody just requested, what's your stance on quant stamp, QSP? I would say that with quant stamp, As a project, I haven't done the type of research that I typically do with projects that I invest in long term, but we can definitely look at the technical analysis to see what's happening here with QuantStamp. But looking at QuantStamp, I mean, it's experiencing a descent just like the majority of coins right now. So I would say that allow me to do more extensive research, and then maybe I'll talk about this project later down the road. So we'll focus on Bitcoin right now. I just don't want to talk about something that I'm not as familiar with. And I know QuantStamp's a legacy coin. It's been around for some time. But Paul says, no, Naeem, did you see Ellen last night? No, but I heard of stories. So trust me, I know what's going on. Sheris says, FUD for Verge, is it a good time to buy? A ton of FUD for Verge. People, if you don't know, Verge got hacked recently, and they had $1.7 million worth of tokens stolen. And this is the second time it's happened for Verge. They've, received the vulnerability attack, which is pretty much where you take over 51% of the network in regards to like the miners that are verifying transactions. And because you have 51% control, you can initiate that vulnerability attack, and that's what they experience. I think that a lot of blockchains will experience this type of scenario, and you would just have to find the blockchains that are willing to cope with it properly and progress themselves. Like Ethereum experienced this very early on, and that's why Ethereum Classic was forked from Ethereum. If you don't know, Ethereum Classic is the original blockchain that Vitalik and his team developed, but eventually that turned into Ethereum because of a huge hack that occurred in their early days. So it's something that's happened before. I don't see it as a big deal. Is it FUD that can allow the price to go down? I think the majority of coins right now, if we look at coin market cap, are down right now. And then total market capitalization, this is something I wanted to actually discuss. So we're seeing Bitcoin go up in market dominance, and we're seeing a slight descent for altcoins. But what I'm expecting and what I think is going to happen is we're going to see Bitcoin and altcoins go up in dominance together as we start to see the liquidity flow back into this market, because obviously liquidity has flowed out of this market now that we're probably, let's see here, below 350 billion. Yep, we're at 330 billion. So as we go back up to the $400 billion market cap, I think that what we're going to see is these altcoins start to rally back up in dominance with Bitcoin as well, as we saw here, where Bitcoin and altcoins were rallying up in dominance together for a short period of time before we saw the crash occur. And the reason I say that is because remember, the process in which these investors have to go through to obtain these altcoins is a process in which Bitcoin is always involved, right? You purchase your Bitcoin to then get your altcoins. So because of that, I think when more liquidity comes in this market, especially institutions that are going to be looking at projects like EOS, for example, when they enter this market, they're going to come in and buy Bitcoin to then go ahead and put in their investments for a coin like EOS. So I think that's really the scenario that's going to play out into June, coming into July, for us to see another swing high. And I think what all of us have to keep in mind this next time we see a swing high is the fact that we're probably going to swing low again. Knowing that the volatility is still there, we've still got whales and market makers shorting, then in my opinion, you have to be cognizant of that and aware of that and be able to take your profits when we are approaching resistance levels or overbought levels to then take advantage of these swing lows. By the way, I have a voicemail. I want you guys to tell me what you think about this voicemail. It's a very controversial voicemail that I received yesterday, but I think it's something worth playing. And it was an individual that had an idea of how to stop market manipulation. And I want to hear all of your opinions on this voicemail that are watching this live stream. And tell me if you actually think this is somebody that we should probably get on our live stream and do an interview with and see if we can debunk this myth or this opinion. Check this out, though. It was a very interesting voicemail. I think it'll add some value to all of you. Let me pull this up here. And it was just from a fan that sent it. And I eventually reached out to them and I was like, man, that's actually a really funny voicemail. But listen to this. Tell me what you all think. It was interesting to me.
Hello, this is messages for Naeem. So I got this crazy idea. This is by CryptoPig. So the idea is...
Do you guys hear it?
Hello, this is messages for Naeem. Hey man. So I got this crazy idea. This is by CryptoPig. So the idea is we have to have some kind of strategy to help ourselves in the market. There are a lot of people that are holding Bitcoin, right? So the problem is that they want Bitcoin to go up in value, but at the same time, they are lending their coins to exchanges so that bears and big whales can short them. So they have to short this thing. Whales short the coins, and then when the price goes up, then they short more, and then they put more money until they actually bring the price down. Because you can compete with people that want to sell lots of coins when there are not too many bulls buying. So why not try for a day to tell everyone that in this crypto circle, and that watch your channel and watch other channels, to ask for one day to take their.
So he's pretty much saying this. He's saying we're giving up all of our coins to the exchanges, and when there's no more liquidity coming to this market, because they have all of our coins, they just initiate the shorts in the market, and they just bring all the prices down, and they're able to recoup more and more coins. So what he's proposing is, why not, instead of leaving our coins in the exchanges, all of us were to take our coins off the exchanges onto a hardware wallet, for example, and that gives the exchanges no leverage over our coins. So it's a very good point that he brings up, because you've got all of these major exchanges that hold these coins, and at the end of the day, we're giving them the leverage to do what they want with the market because we're giving them our coins. So if we were to buy any coins on an exchange, would it be more reasonable for us to take it off the exchange so that the exchange has no control over it, or at least have policies in place that assure us that our coins are not going to be used in any way against us, right? So it's an interesting phenomenon. If you don't understand what we're talking about, then don't worry about it. But if you do understand it, then I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments or the chat. But it's an interesting thought. The only downside to it is how we're going to convince hundreds of thousands of people to use a hardware wallet. So that's the one thing. Kristen says, I am not understanding, with all the finance industry infrastructure ramping up, why there is not a huge surge in interest / buys. Well, you have to understand, Kristen, before we see the surge of buyers come into this market, we need the regulations to be more clear, right? We're still seeing all this FUD every single day come out with regulations and different opinions and different things that are, quote unquote happening. But in reality, it's all the same thing. It's all uncertainty. But we haven't yet seen solid regulations come into this market. Once that solid, regulation process is in play, we're going to then see the influx of liquidity come in from the institutions. But it takes confidence with these buyers before they put in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into this market. You think ahead, says, but then you have no supply and demand and hence volatility. Jonathan says, lots of over-the-counter paper orders for Bitcoin that are done outside of exchanges. Absolutely. And I've partaken in them. And that's why I'm telling you, there's definitely a buyers and sellers market here. It's not a ton of whales selling out their Bitcoin. I recently was involved in a huge Bitcoin deal, and I'll just say it was over 500,000 coins. And we were able to find, and we're still looking for, but it hasn't been an issue for us to find buyers for the, that large amount of coins, which is billions of dollars. So knowing that should give you an idea of the fact that there is still a demand. And the majority of the whales that are selling their coins, of course they're going to want to sell their coins. If you have over 100,000 Bitcoin because you were early, in this, obviously you were early if you have that much, then of course you're going to want to liquidate it at this point now that it's worth billions of dollars, right? If not hundreds of billions, because why not? You just don't have to work for the rest of your life. And even if it goes further high, like further up, I mean, why would you want that much money? So they'll liquidate it, they'll take their wealth and then give it to another individual to then hope for more later down the road as it increases. The same way that gold was traded back in the early days, the same way that any traditional commodity or even gold and silver has been traded in the past, where we're all expecting the value to go up because it's limited in quantity. So hopefully that helps out. Natalie says, doesn't over-the-counter trades hurt the price for small investors? Well, it's not something that you can prevent, because understand the reason you go over-the-counter if you have hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin is because you're going to get either a discount in buying or a discount in selling, because it's like a large order, right? It's like going to Sam's Club instead of Walmart, where you can buy in bulk or buy in wholesale. Lawrence says, is this a good time to increase my BNB bags? Haven't seen a trend signal in Discord for BNB lately. Yeah, well, understand BNB, in my opinion, that's a long-term hold for me. I expect high long-term profits from BNB, surpassing current all-time highs, especially as they burn more coins and as the exchange becomes more prominent. So I would always recommend BNB as a long-term hold. I think the next big move we're going to see is from Sys, and that's SYSBTC. And the reason I say that is Sys has been consolidating for quite a bit, and you can see now, especially with this huge correction, it's just becoming more and more of attractive buy, especially for somebody like me. So I'm definitely watching Sys right now. That's really my next big play, especially after we saw the swing high, the swing low, the swing high. We're back at that swing low. I think we'll see another swing high that could yield us, you know, if not 50 to 60% profits as it approaches these all-time highs back around 6,000 plus Satoshis. So it's going to be interesting to see what's happening there. And then ONT as well, Ontology, like you said, Tom, is also a coin that I'm very bullish on right now in the next 3 to 5 weeks. So let's see here. Sushi says, question about lending. If you're a long-term holder, why hold on cold wallet instead of lend it on an exchange providing margin trading and get more? There's a lot of different ways you can do it. There's a lot of different ways you can lend. Like if you use Salt, for example, Salt will allow you to liquidate assets into pretty much, you know, lending you money where you don't have to pay taxes. So somebody says, how much do I have to invest in your hedge fund? There's not a specific amount for the hedge fund. If you are an accredited investor, that's the criteria. You have to be an accredited investor just by SEC regulations. So if you are interested in our crypto hedge fund, then you can email sniperstube@icloud.com. Talk to me 2000 says, if all the YouTuber guys can all have the meeting together about taking the coin off the exchange, I see it working. Well, we don't control the market. I mean, YouTube is just a small aspect of the market. Your thoughts on EOS's price after they launch, Marius? I believe EOS will see new all-time highs in the next several months. EOS is a very bullish project for me. BNB is a very bullish project. I see Sys and Ontology coming up very soon as well. So those are definitely coins that I've talked about for months, and I will continue to talk about. What's the best platform to short alts? Well, a lot of people like to use BitMEX, Riley, so that's probably the best idea. Somebody says 400 likes and you shave your mustache. Well, if I'm going to shave my mustache, I'm going to shave the beard too. But sure, if we hit 400 likes on this stream. Oh, wow, we have 500 plus viewers. That might not be the best idea. I don't want to shave on screen. What are we at? Oh, wow, we just went over 200 with a snap of a finger. That's funny. We have to watch ourselves then. Hopefully we don't have to pour the LaCroix over my head. JR Flores says, what happened to credits? Well, we talked about credits at like 40 cents and it went up to 80 cents. So I think we did pretty well with credits already. Remember I said to buy and then sell before April 31st? So if you did that, you were able to make a ton of profits. It went up a ton after we called it. Matthew says, I'm pleased to announce the monthly 400% wiki staking mixer is back up and running. All those, I don't know what this guy's talking about. All right, so any other questions or requests before we wrap this baby up? I just wanted to bring you guys more confidence. Understand we've seen this play happen before, and at the end of the day, if you are aware of what's happening, you know we are approaching oversold levels, and this is all opportunity in my eyes, and hopefully in your eyes as well. And these are the swings that I love taking advantage of. You know, I've taken advantage of every single one of these swings. You know, we went down to 6,000. We took advantage of that. I was able to sell at these higher levels. When it went down once again, we took advantage of that, was able to sell at some higher levels. And I think that if we keep taking advantage of these large swings, then it's just an inevitable way to continue to profit in this market. And then even if you have lost capital because of these descents, then just go ahead and bring your break even down lower by purchasing at these lower lows where they're completely oversold, in which as soon as that swing high occurs, you can go ahead and break even faster than you would have before if you weren't to dollar cost average at these lower levels. So hopefully that has helped out. Somebody says ETH. Let's pull up ETH. ETH BTC. Sorry if we have other requests. We can't obviously take every request, but we'll try our best to answer as many questions as possible. Remember, if you guys want a community that's up 24/7, we actually post daily market health updates in the morning on our Discord. For those of you not on our Discord, I highly recommend getting on our Discord. It's actually a very easy platform to use. There's a mobile version you can use on your phone and get push notifications straight to your phone as soon as we update you guys on a daily basis. And we provide really, intimate updates. I mean, we go really hard into them, but this is how our Discord looks. The link is in the description. Highly recommend getting on there. But I want to pull up trading patterns here and talk about a trading pattern that we've seen forming here. Now, understand with Ethereum, we called out this drop several days ago because of the fact that we were at these higher RSI levels for so long that we were just expecting a drop. So knowing that we were at overbought levels, we need Ethereum to correct down to around these oversold levels before being confident in another entry point. And then another thing that I want you all to realize here is what's forming with Ethereum. You've got this obvious rounding bottom here. So you've got this descent, right? And following this descent, we saw a little bit of a uptick, descent, uptick, descent, rounding bottom formed, found resistance, and now the handle is forming. In my opinion, it makes sense for us to correct down to that 50-day moving average before seeing another shot back above these previous resistance levels, which would take Ethereum to newer highs, at least highs that we've not yet seen since around the January level where we were at these higher price levels. So knowing that we're forming this rounding bottom, you can also look at BTC USD and see this cup formation here as well. You can see we found this bottom, rounded itself out, and now we're forming that handle. And as long as this handle doesn't go below the previous low, then it's still going to be in its cup and handle formation, and there's still that potential for us to break out. If you don't know how a cup and handle or rounding bottom look, you can just pull up our Discord under trading patterns. You can see they're both breakout patterns that indicate a bullish breakout. So rounding bottom is right there, and then a cup and handle is right over here. So understand, I am extremely optimistic about this market. I don't see this as anything negative. We've seen this happen before. At these price levels, we're completely used to our price levels being at this level. We've already corrected down to 6,000 in the past, 5,900 if not, and it's just a matter of time before we see higher price levels and institutional money come into this market, as we've been talking about over the past couple of months. So hopefully that's helped out, y'all. Thank you all so much for tuning in once again. Somebody says, let's hit 500 likes. Yes, let's hit the like button if you guys enjoy these daily live streams. And once again, stay optimistic. Don't let this market eat you away. Stay level-headed and understand that anytime we see lows, we're going to see highs, and that's how markets work. They swing up and they swing down, and the cryptocurrency market is just a lot faster and a lot more volatile than the majority of markets. So we're going to see this happen more and more often in shorter time spans. So continue to expect these swing highs and swing lows. And yep, with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. I think that was a pretty in-depth analysis. Love you all. And until our next live stream, Snipers out.